Hello and welcome. I see one like on here, but I don't see anybody logged in. This is interesting. Um, Give me a couple of seconds if you are logged in on this live. And we have one. So I'm going to take a look at all of these fancy things that are apparently you can play video games live now. Okay, I'm going to add this question if you guys want. Have you Okay, and okay, that's good to know. All right, there is one person logged on, and I'm going to start reading this. So I know that I said I was going to start this on December 1st, but technically, in God's calendar, it is the second day of Kislev. So we're going to start the book of Daniel now, just because I don't really want there to be a huge, large gap between reading Bible passages on here live. I'm kind of liking this because it's keeping me accountable to make sure that I'm also reading the word and getting to know things. Okay, so the book of Daniel has one passage, several paragraphs. The first passage, and the only passage, but several paragraphs. It's titled "Daniel and His Friends Obey God." In the 3rd year of the reign of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came to Jerusalem and besieged it. The Lord gave Jehoiakim, king of Judah, into his hand with some of the articles of the house of God, which he carried into the land of Shinar, to the house of his God. And he brought the articles into the treasure house of his God. Then the king instructed Ashpenaz, the master of the eunuchs, to bring some of the children of Israel, and some of the king's descendants, and some of the nobles, young men in whom there was no blemish, but good-looking, gifted in all wisdom, possessing knowledge, and quick to understand, who had ability to serve in the king's palace, and whom they might teach the language and literature of the Chaldeans. And the king appointed for them a daily provision of the king's delicacies and of the wine which he drank, and 3 years of training them, so that at the end of that time they might serve before the king. Now from among those of the sons of Judah were Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. To them the chief of the eunuchs gave names. He named Daniel the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah Shadrach, to Mishael Meshach, and to Azariah Abednego. I'm going to pause over here. Some of you who have read this, it's not Shadrach, Meshach, and a billy goat. It's Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Okay? But Daniel purposed in his heart that he would not defile himself with the portion of the king's delicacies, nor with the wine which he drank. Therefore he requested of the chief of the eunuchs that he might not defile himself. Now God brought Daniel into the favor and goodwill of the chief of the eunuchs. And the chief of the eunuchs said to Daniel, I fear my lord the king, who for why should he see your faces looking worse than the young men who are your age? Then you would endanger my head before the king. So Daniel, okay, so I'll take a pause again just to answer the scenario here. So in the first paragraph, we see that Jehoiakim has been besieged and Nebuchadnezzar has taken a whole bunch of Israelites to Jerusalem, to his land of the Chaldeans, to Shinar, and took a bunch of the articles to his religious place of worship, I guess. And in this group of people that were taken captive are Daniel and his friends Shadrach, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. So to Daniel, he gives the name Belteshazzar, to Hananiah, Shadrach, to Mishael, he gives Meshach, and to Azariah, he gives the name Abednego, not a billy goat, Abednego. Okay? There are no billy goats in this chapter or in this book. Okay, so now the king is now in, we're at verse 8 to 10 here that I just read. The king wants for these young men, he wants a certain number of the young men to be presented to him because to be trained in the literature and language of the Chaldeans. And he wants these to be young men of a certain age who are good looking, without blemish. And he wants to give these young men, as part of the training and whatnot, portions from his own delicacies. Now, as you would know, Jewish and Israelites, especially in that time, they had restrictions as to what they could eat and what they could not eat. And, some meats and some foods were considered clean and others were considered unclean. So now Daniel asks the eunuch who has presented this offer or this command from this king to them, that they cannot defile themselves with these foods, these delicacies from the king's table, because they don't align with their teachings. Okay. Hello, Jaden. Okay, so now I'm gonna go on in 15. Verse 11. So Daniel said to the steward, whom the chief of the eunuchs had set over Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah, please test your servants for 10 days and let them give us vegetables to eat and water to drink. Then let our appearance be examined before you, and the appearance of the young men who eat the portion of the king's delicacies, and as you see fit, so deal with your servants. So he consented with them in this matter and tested them 10 days. And at the end of the 10 days, their features appeared better and fatter and in flesh than all the young men who ate the portion of the king's delicacies. Thus the steward took away their portion of the delicacies and the wine that they were to drink and gave them vegetables. As for these 4 young men, God gave them knowledge and skill in all literature and wisdom. And Daniel had understanding in all visions and dreams. Okay, that's interesting. Now, at the end of the days, when the king had said that they should be brought in, the chief of the eunuchs brought them in before Nebuchadnezzar. Then the king interviewed them, and among them all, none was found like Daniel, Hananiah, Mishael, and Azariah. Therefore they served before the king, and in all matters of wisdom and understanding about which the king examined them, he found them 10 times better than all the magicians and astrologers who were in all his realm. Thus Daniel continued until the first year of King Cyrus. So King Cyrus would be the one who takes over when Nebuchadnezzar dies. That's later on in the chapter. Now, that was the whole first chapter, okay? I'm just going to pause here and talk about a couple of things. So we see here Daniel and his friends ask the eunuch to eat vegetables and drink water only, no wine and no delicacies. And this has often been linked with like vegan diets and things like that. And I want you guys to understand that the idea here is not to say that they were going to be healthier because of the food, but healthier because they have obeyed God and He had given them a miraculous result from eating food that is less in nutrition. Okay. Um, an honest testimony in this case was I did what, so the Daniel fast comes from this, and the Daniel fast is basically 21-day fast of vegan foods only, no animal byproducts, no meat, no dairy, and it's mostly, grains are allowed, I guess, but it's mostly vegetables. I did that fast many times in the past, and one of the times that I did it almost like 9 years ago or something, I remember thinking, getting ahead of myself in that phase when the fast was completed, the 21 days was completed. I thought to myself, I'm going to continue doing this because it seems kind of easy. I don't really need meat. I don't really need to eat fish. I don't really need anything that is an animal byproduct. Continued it for a few months. By the fourth month, I started to get sick. I lost a lot of my, yeah, the my nutritional levels in my body was like gone. It was, I had depleted in iron, had iron deficiency, um, was my blood pressure dropped, and then I got sick, and I remained sick for with bronchitis for like 4 months. It would not heal, and then it wasn't until, and I think I carried on this vegan diet for almost a year, to be honest, and it wasn't until I started to eat meat again that the bronchitis went away and the cough and everything else. So I want to make it very clear that when they ate the vegetables and looked better than everybody else who was getting the king's delicacies, which was obviously meat, it is not, it's not because of the food they were eating, but because God provided miraculous way for them because of their obedience, right? I eat meat too, Gryffindor. We have a Harry Potter lover here. Hello. Um, so okay, I guess somebody's messages on here are not getting through. If you guys make certain unkind or strange messages, is not going to come through because we have a lot of restrictions, security restrictions up on this channel. So be nice. So yeah, I want to point that out. And in this case, because they were obedient to God, because they chose not to eat the delicacies in order to obey God, it was not for their own benefit. It was not for their health. It was not for any of that. God honored them by making sure that they looked better than all of those who did eat the king's delicacies, right? All they were doing was being obedient to the Lord. This is the first chapter of the book. If you are taking notes at all, I would take note of the fact that they were, okay, so Daniel and his friends, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, are said to be skilled and knowledgeable, and they're they had um, skill in all literature, and they had wisdom, which is really incredible. And Daniel specifically has understanding in all visions and dreams. He's able to interpret dreams and visions. This is important to take note of because this um, a really important part of the rest of this book. Okay. So that is the reading of the book of Daniel's. We have 15 votes here. 60% of those who logged on have read the book of Daniel, and 40% have not. 15 people have voted. That's good to know. That's actually shocking. I expected it to be more around like 10 to 20% that have read it. It's good to know, you guys. Thank you for joining me today. I know I was saying that I was going to, if anybody has joined me in previous lives, I was saying at the last one of the book of Revelation, I was going to do the book of Daniel in December, but I decided to move this up. I will be back on later today, I think at 5 p.m. Eastern Time. I have it scheduled on there. If you're interested, please go ahead and click the notification button on that scheduled live. We will be talking about finances. So if you're interested in the topic of finances and biblical principles that on finances, and what God thinks about wealth and prosperity and all that stuff, as well as if you want to know about the blessings that are wealth, um, click the notification on the scheduled live for later today and join us. And it is, yeah, so I'll see you guys there. I'm getting a lot of votes on this. Maybe I'm going to stay on for a couple of minutes. What are the other books that anybody has read if you are still online? Hmm? Okay, 18 people have voted, 19 have voted, and we are now down to 47%. Okay, makes sense. This makes a little bit more sense. I didn't expect to have 60% of the people have read the book of Daniel. Okay. So what are the other books of the what are the other books that you guys have written? Read, I mean, from the Bible. If you guys have done so, read anything, please do thing on it. Okay, so now we have I think 23 people that have um 23 people that have voted. No, 21 people that have voted. Okay, this makes a little bit more sense. I really did expect only 10 to 25% at the most if there was such a high number of votes, on which people have already read the book of Daniel, but it looks like it's 43%, which is still a lot higher than my expectations. Hello, Agent HT, and hello, Jaden. Thank you guys for joining today. Like I said, there will be another live at 5 p.m. this afternoon. So, um, if you are interested in hearing about Bible principles on the topic of wealth and wealth building and prosperity and things like that, no, it's not prosperity gospel, but there are a lot of advice and a lot of, instructions in the Bible that are very useful. So we'll be talking about that later today, 5 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure to click the notification so that you are um, aware. Okay, so that you remember and that you get a notification when it is time. Thank you guys for listening. God bless you. Have a wonderful Sunday. Bye now.